going to be a very small corporate update. It's Paul Gray. I'm the Vice President of Technical Services for Victoria Gold, and I thought I'd take this opportunity to give you guys a bit of an update. A small update corporately, and then branch you into what's happening with exploration as we advance the Dublin Gulch, the Eagle project, and the Dublin Gulch project in specific. Okay, so here we are. This is the forward-looking statements, which I always put out. I'm a forward-looking statement person as I'm trained as an exploration geologist, so this just encourages you to do your homework before you go any further. This thing seems to have a mind of its own. I'm not pressing anything. For location and for general purpose, I think we all know where Yukon is. I think we all know where the Eagle operation is. We're in the kind of central northern portion of the project, about 5 hours north of Whitehorse. It's serviced by an all-season access road and in an airstrip which moves our people and goods from Mayo. It's regularly scheduled charter and scheduled aircraft, the airport at Mayo. Lots of important commercial hubs available close by, not too far, but Whitehorse, and of course Skagway and the Tidewater is accessible, as is for all of Yukon, which is why we're having this conversation here. So I'll advance again. Now, the Eagle Gold Mine. This is a very simple drill, blast, crush, convey, stack, heap leach style operation. Nothing too outside of the box when it comes to gold recovery. We pour doré, and we're targeting about 200,000 ounces a year, ramping that up to 250,000 ounces in the next couple of years. We're about 3 years into production at the moment, just a little shy. And from a geological point of view, we've certainly learned a lot about certainly learned a lot about the geology by digging a big hole in the ground. For all of you exploration guys out there, I highly encourage you to dig an enormous hole in the ground at your deposit. It gives you a whole different perspective for what you dig. So just a quick site layout. You can see where the pit lies. You could before, there we go. You can see where the pit lies. And it's not a normal open pit style where you're looking at sort of a 3 or 4 to 1 strip ratio. This is on the side of a hill, so it's more of a scallop out of the side of the hill, which allows us to achieve that less than 1 to 1 strip ratio. The material is then drilled, blasted, and sent to a primary crusher, where it is crushed and conveyed to our secondary tertiary facility, which takes it down to nominally 6 millimeters, which is then conveyed over about 1.7 kilometers up to the, and then stacked by a series of grasshopper and articulated stacking systems on the heap leach pad. There, a solution is applied to it, whereby the gold is recovered through a ADR, so the gold recovery plant process, fairly typical. And this just gives you a good general site layout for where we are. So as again, I wasn't going to mention too much corporately. I'll be happy to talk to you. We have a booth right across the way if you're looking for any updates from our recent financial statements and or production statistics from year-end 2021 or first quarter 2022. Suffice it to say, operations are going well. This is our favorite time of year as we're gaining a lot of sunlight, and we're gaining a lot of ability to move rock and stack. We do take the coldest 3 or 4 weeks of the year down when we do maintenance on our assets, and we still mine during that time, but we don't stack for that period. So now we're coming out of that period, and you're going to see a lot of production statistics coming down the line as we ramp up. So that being said, if you look at the entire Dublin Gulch property, it's approximately 550 square kilometers, so it's rather large. The Eagle Gold Mine sits just about in the center of these, and historically something like 99% of the money ever spent on the property has been spent in that little star, and that is to the detriment, if you ask me as an exploration geologist, to the rest of the property. There's a large polymetallic system at play here. Not only is there a gold deposit, which we're actively producing from, there's high-grade past-producing silver projects on the property, there's a tungsten deposit with a historic resource on it, as well as a number of higher-grade past-producing gold projects. So there's more than just Eagle, notwithstanding the fact that the Haggard Creek and Dublin Gulch and Haggard Creek, which drain the Eagle deposit, are one of the top 10 placer-producing creeks in the Yukon, and that's not just Whistling Dixie when you've got the Klondike in there. So we know there's a lot of gold in the system, and we know there's more than one period of gold mineralization. Interestingly, the deposit sits in the largest intrusive body on the project, called the Dublin Gulch Block. This is a 92 to 94 million year old Cretaceous intrusive block. The second largest intrusive on the property is over here. It's Nugget, and that's been the recent focus of our efforts. It's always been a concept of mine since I began working on this property in 2010 to identify these intrusives, access them, and then take a look at them, see if they fit the bill for our Potato Hills trend, which is a general trend of mineralization about 060 to 050, which runs through related expressly to the intrusive bodies, particularly on the contact margins. So that's really driven our exploration campaigns for the last few years. Quickly, and I won't bore you, but it is important to have a geological perspective on this. This is a sheeted vein deposit within this Cretaceous intrusive. I put a couple pictures of our ore up here. Whoops, I think I can go back now. There we go. I describe it as, do you like your kitchen countertop? That's our ore. Geologically uninteresting, but economically interesting. I once heard it put by one of our directors, God bless the geologist that first put this rock in the bag to send it to the lab, because it doesn't look like much. But the gold is hosted in these sheeted veins. It's free gold, something like 0.05% of the deposit is sulfide by volume. And all the gold is hosted on the fractures, the structures, and within these sheeted veins. We use a back of the thumb, or back of the envelope, sort of thumb suck. If you see two of these veinlets, which are about the width of my pinky, per meter, you're going to run about 0.3. If you see 5 of these veinlets per meter, you're going to run closer to a gram. It's that kind of relationship. And then, of course, we sit in the Tintina Gold Belt, if you will, very similar mineralization style, tenor, and age to what's going on across the border at Fort Knox. And they, of course, have been mining now for almost 30 years on something that looks extraordinarily similar to Eagle. So it gives us a lot of encouragement that there's more than we've captured in the feasibility study to discuss. I think I could skip over the rest of this stuff. It just gives you a general feel for where we are. So among the corporate updates you may have heard, we're talking about Project 250, which looks at increasing some of our assets, scalping some fines, and generally just optimizing crush to get our production up to 250,000 ounces a year from the initial 200, and that's all very achievable. But the one I like, and is near and dear to my heart, is Project 240, and this is adding mine life. How do we add mine life? It's easy. We add more ore. We already have the infrastructure in place, and so the easiest place, and if I've been doing this now for almost 30 years, the easiest way to find a mine is in the shadow of head frames, and it's no different here. If you look at our this is a long section showing you that scallop out of the side of the hill. If you look at our resource model, that's that big red blob. We always knew there was more mineralization to depth beneath the ultimate pit, which is shown here in this horrible purple color. So it wasn't a surprise that there's more. It was just not economically feasible to extract it all and make $1. And that's why these pits were constructed in this way. Subsequent drilling, and recently, starting in 2017 and then again in 2019, 20, and through 21, we began to see this mineralization really extend to depth. There'd just been no call to drill that deep before, but now that we had this infrastructure built, we had our permits in place, and we were actively mining, we could start to look with a much broader expanse. So the first thing that comes into mind is not only have we demonstrated gold mineralization to over 800 meters, which is obvious from this long section, we've identified gold mineralization along strike, in this case to Eagle West, and then this bonus material we've seen, I call it bonus ore, we've seen in the high wall. So if you picture this reserve model we have, it's just an envelope, and within that envelope, that's where your gold is captured. The only reason there's no gold outside of it is because there's no data. There was no drilling. We used to drill into the metasediments, and that was shut down rock. Stop the drill. It won't be captured in the feasibility study. Whereas what we've demonstrated now through blast holes and through production is that there's leakage from our main ore body into the host rock. And to date, we've captured something like 3.6 million tons of material, which was previously categorized as waste, but actually reports as ore. So it gives us a bit more confidence. As I said, if you can dig a big hole in your deposit, you really figure out a lot more about it. We've captured that here. So not very difficult, but the idea is just to continue drilling where we left off before with a bankable feasibility in hand. We'll just extend it on strike and see if we can build a larger pit with a setback and a layback in later years to capture some of this. So we have 3 phases of mining currently planned to this ultimate pit. We would just add a 4th phase that would pick up this material. So that's currently our exploration efforts. If you've been following, excuse me, if you've been following the story, you'll be able to see some of our recent drilling in 2021 and 2022 has targeted Eagle West. So I call this near Eagle, and indeed in this year so far we've drilled over 10,000 meters in 23 holes in and around the pit, mostly focused on the western margin and on the eastern margin in the high wall. You can see here, this is the ultimate pit, the little black line, and the historic drill holes are all in black. They just stop. There's no reason they stop. The geology doesn't stop. They just weren't captured in the feasibility study. So all we've done is we just filled in this area. We've seen surface indications, and then a drilling campaign in 2017 on Eagle Extension identified this target as permissive to host some more mineralization. So we're working on this all now, and we'll be updating a resource statement based on this drilling probably late this year, early next year. Penultimate target is of course on the top, because if you're gonna take a bigger hole in the ground, you're going to need to do a setback, and so you'd capture both hanging wall and footwall. And as you can see from some of these results that we had from 2021, you're looking at some fairly decent, cutoff for the Eagle Gold Mine was 0.15, and nominally we're mining down to 0.25 at the moment. Excuse me. You can see there's 175 meters of 0.8, 100 meters of 0.4, 132 meters of 0.8. These are good, consistent, mineralized, what I consider ore, right next door to Eagle. So big focus. Certainly the drilling we've done to date has validated the geologic model, and the geologic model is incredibly simple. Granodiorite, which is our white rock, is ore. Metasediments is waste, but you have a chance to hit a little bit of ore within the leakage into this metasediment. So by drilling around the edges, we've defined these granodiorite contacts and have a much better control on them, which will serve us as we build out a resource in the near term. A couple sections for you just to illustrate this. Here's our pit again, and you'll see some of the recent drilling we did in 2021. And we've stepped out on this in 2022. Results are yet to be received, but they're coming. And you'll note that this all becomes particularly mineralized and particularly interesting when all you have to do is just increase that strip ratio or increase that pit size, and you can pick all this mineralization up for essentially free. Same thing in the high wall, up on the western portion. We're seeing mineralization immediately below the ultimate pit, which could easily be picked up in a setback. Additionally, wherever we hit granodiorite in these holes, it's mineralized. So that, again, is our proof of concept. So things are working quite well, and we'll continue to beaver away on this in the years to come. Last couple indications here, just some schematics here to show you the block model as it exists. Again, where there's no data, it just was defined as waste. We're just filling in areas that before had no data, and it's proving those intercepts I've shown you before are really showing us this thing has some size and could easily see that 10 plus year mineral extension of mine life through additional drilling. That's not the only thing we're doing. We're also busy on the rest of the property. As I mentioned, it's the easy, low-hanging fruit to pick up the mineralization near the pit itself. But the more interesting to me is developing this gold camp, which is really a developing camp that if it was in Nevada, I've said this before, there'd be 5 operations on this, notwithstanding the 6 4-lane interstate highways which would go through it. So infrastructure is our biggest setback here, which is why we're investing in infrastructure in the future of the Dublin Gulch Gold Camp by building access. So the first order of business was to build this road into Dunget, which extended from the Eagle Gold Mine. I banged it through in 2019, and we've been beavering away there ever since. It will continue to be a focus because we like the higher grade material that we're seeing. These are some of the released results. I won't have you read them all, just the highlights are very simple. You've got a high grade on and near surface vein hosted deposit. It's not like Eagle. It's hosted within the granodiorite, again close to the contact like Eagle, but very different. This is a higher sulfide content, massive sulfide veins, which range from half a meter to 2 meters, and they run grams, multi-gram intercepts. This is just the highlights from the results we've released this year. There's some previous ones, including a trench that was 150 meters or 3.5 grams. So when you're seeing that kind of tenor of mineralization on surface, you get excited. I'll just show you a quick couple sections, starting in the east and moving to the, starting in the west and moving to the east. just so you get an idea of our geological model. Granodiorite here in this lovely pink color is your mineralization and or is your mineral host, and the granodite and the metaseds are on the footwall, and you're seeing all of these gold grades hosted in these discrete veins. But the fact is, these discrete veins are persistent across now a kilometer and a half of length, of strike length, and you see the same veins in one hole to the next. It's very impressive. There's already a red light blinking at me, so I'll fly through these, but you do get the idea that these things hang together on 100-meter space and 50-meter space sections. So very exciting, and we're looking to build out a resource model on this, which I've begun now. And how do we do that? It's structural downhole-oriented core is our biggest friend, along with a great deal of surface work. I like to touch the rocks and commune with them and really feel for how they're going. So surface trenching is a really big part of it, as is lithological mapping and a whole lot of structural measurements. We've got 7 distinct vein styles mapped to date, lots of consistent vein orientations, and this will continue into this next season. Right now, we have a deposit model coming together. It's going to be a hosted hanging or high-grade veins. So these are these 2 to 3 meter higher-grade sulfide veins hosted within a lower-grade envelope. So you'll forgive the political inference here, but it's kind of like a Russian doll style model. Inside the low-grade halo is a higher-grade vein, and this is going to be driving our data. So a lot of statistics have gotten us to this point, and we look forward to putting something out later this year as we continue to grow. So again, not to bore everybody too much here as I'm being booted off, but this is the deposit as it stands right now, about a kilometer and a half from stem to stern at a nominally 060. We're going to extend it to the southwest where there's some geochemical indications on surface. I'm going to look in the interior, this second largest intrusive body on the property, because there's a lot of chances you could host another eagle here. Sheeted veins and similar style of mineralization as we've seen at Eagle. We just haven't had a chance to test that. And along with on strike to some geochemical indicators we have in the north. Lastly, and I'll just move through this quickly, is Lynx. This is another one of our opportune targets where we've applied the Potato Hills trend model on, and that is go find the intrusives, test the contacts, and see if they fit in. This one had the benefit of some previous work. Back in the 90s and 2000s, there have been a series of intervals which look a lot like grades and tenors we've seen at Raven. Things like 4.5 meters of 7 grams, 9 meters of 7 grams, 8 meters of 3 grams, very similar. So we got very excited and we're able to apply our exploration model, what we've learned from Raven, onto Lynx. That got us these results, which we've announced already this year. There's more in the pipe that we'll be putting out soon, but certainly something to get you excited about. Again, another on and near surface daylighting deposit with over 32 meters of 2 grams, 20 meters of 3 grams, very similar to what we saw early stages at Raven, and something we think we can advance through a little bit more work. One thing I will leave you with here is if you just look at intersects by year, back in the 90s, this was the number of hits by gram meter they had per year. The last 2 seasons, the only time we spent on Lynx, we've certainly increased that hit ratio. So it shows you we know what we're doing, the Potato Hills trend and the geologic model works, and what we're learning from Raven and applying to Lynx is a 1-to-1. So this has increased our success rate exponentially. A couple of quick sections that I won't bore you with, but obvious to see that there's some, again, pervasive veins which strike through and do daylight with some of our trenching, and you get some of these grades again that I mentioned. We've got a mineralization trend here. We've got some surface work, mostly through trenches, which we were able to extend deeper than the work in the 90s was able to get to, with the fact that you can now access this. It was inaccessible before and had to be basically hand trenched. Now we can get heavy equipment on it and really do some damage geologically. And we've defined some of these sub-parallel zones which are coming together. I think this is my last slide, so thanks for bearing with me. Radiometrics we flew in 2017, and that seems to be quite a useful tool along with geochemistry. I'm a bear on geochemistry. It's cheap and easy work to do, and it really gives you a good influence on both lithology and structure, particularly structure in this deposit. So stay tuned.